Welcome to the Drum Shuffle, a podcast offering insights, perspectives, and conversations for drummers. I'm your host, Jamie Eads.
Hey, how's it going out there, everybody? Welcome to the Drum Shuffle. Jamie Eads joining you as I do each and every week. This is episode 85. Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas holiday season. Hope 2020 is off to a fantastic start for you. It sure is over here at the Drum Shuffle World Headquarters. So happy to be back, and we've got a great episode for you today. I'm going to be joined by the great Fred Eltringham right after this message from our sponsor, Los Cabos Drumsticks. The best kept secret for drummers is finally out. Los Cabos Drumsticks may look like the sticks you grew up with, but these are not your father's drumsticks. Los Cabos Drumsticks is Canada's #1 drumstick brand, and they are coming to a retailer near you. With operations in over 28 countries worldwide, thousands of drummers have already discovered the Los Cabos difference. Using FSC certified wood from Canada and the US, Los Cabos make the finest quality drumsticks, percussion tools, and accessories on the market. The best news, Los Cabos Drumsticks offers you a ton of choice. They have 22 individual drumstick models and 14 percussion tools, many of which are available in 3 different wood types: maple, white hickory, and red hickory. Red hickory comes from the center or heart of the hickory tree and has been independently proven to be both stronger and more elastic than white hickory without adding a lot of weight. While most drumstick manufacturers have shunned red hickory, Los Cabos Drumsticks has embraced it, becoming the only established stick brand in the world to offer a full line of red hickory drumsticks. To learn more about Los Cabos Drumsticks, visit them online at loscabosdrumsticks.com, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and don't forget to ask for Los Cabos Drumsticks at your favorite retailer. Dare to be different. Join the Red Hickory Revolution with Los Cabos Drumsticks. All right, guys and girls, as I mentioned, going to be joined by just one of the great drummers in this day and age, Fred Eltringham. Of course, you guys will know Fred most famously as the drummer in Sheryl Crow's outstanding band. He's been playing with Sheryl now for probably going on 8 years, I want to say. And prior to his time in Sheryl's band, Fred played in the Dixie Chicks. He was also a member of the Wallflowers, played with Ben Queller. Fred has just done a ton of great work, and he is super busy in the Nashville recording scene as well. And I mentioned that in our interview, but, you know, just in 2019 alone, Miranda Lambert, Willie Nelson, I mean, he just records with everybody, which is pretty incredible. He also holds the distinction of having double drummed with Ringo Starr, Dave Grohl, on some benefit and charity kind of gigs that we talk about a little bit. But Fred is just a great dude, getting a ton of great work done out there. And it's kind of a funny story, but one of my dear old friends, Clay Fuqua, who is originally from up here in Kentucky, is actually Fred's drum tech. So it was really cool for me to get to hang out with Fred for about an hour and talk about all the stuff that he has going on. And I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of this interview. So please help me welcome to the Drum Shuffle, Fred Eltringham. Hey, Fred. Happy New Year, brother. How are you, man?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I caught you the other night on the old Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve with Sheryl. How was that? Was that a madhouse?
It was awesome. It wasn't too. I mean, we were backstage, so we have our own little zone. But the town was pretty lit up that night. We had a great show. We played for like an hour, and then they filmed 2 songs at the end of the set to broadcast live.
Right.
And that was my first time ever doing the Dick Clark New Year's Reckoning. I grew up watching that, every year. So
yeah, man.
It's pretty awesome. And Ryan Seacrest is now, he's the new Dick Clark. So,
well, I could argue that he is absolutely not the new Dick Clark, but
well, in terms of his career,
yes,
arc, like he's setting himself up to be that, that type of celebrity anyway. He's got 400 things going on, it seems like.
Yeah, well, speaking of people having 400 things going on, man, you've had a busy 2019, and I'm sure 2020 is going to be no different for you. I was just kind of looking through the projects you did, and in 2019 alone, I noticed, Miranda Lambert, of course, Sheryl Crow, Rodney Crowell, Willie Nelson, Vince Gill, Randy Houser. I mean, my God, who didn't you record with in 2019?
Lots of people that I wish I could have.
Yeah.
But, no, it was incredible. It really is. It's fun, man. I don't it's, yes, I'm very fortunate, and I've made a lot of good friends here and stuff, so I'm able to keep kind of busy, It's nice.
Yeah,
very
man.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now you've been living in Nashville, and I'll probably get this wrong, but like almost 15 years. Is that right?
We moved here in 2007.
Okay. All right. So 13 years this
13
year.
13 years. Yeah.
Well, I know that your career has kind of taken a winding path, and, kind of our tradition here on the Drum Shuffle is to kind of have you start at the beginning. Now you're a Philly suburbs guy, right? Originally?
Yep, Westchester, Pennsylvania, or it's like 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia, towards towards the Delaware border.
Gotcha. Now, you came from a musical family, right?
I did, yes. I'm the youngest of 5, and we all played instruments. We all took lessons. I started taking drum lessons when I was 7. And my brothers and my sister all started taking lessons as well. And so pretty quickly, about a year into it, I would say, we started jamming as a band.
Oh, so like a family band kind of thing.
A little family band, yeah.
Oh, that's killer, man.
Minus the parents. My mom sang in the choir and stuff, and she played some piano. And my dad tried playing guitar for a little while, but he loves music, but he's more of a math guy. He's an engineer. He's a brainiac.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so they were super encouraging for all of us, and we all just started doing it and loved it. And about a year after, I did the drum pad for about a year and all snare drum stuff, and then finally got my first kit, which was like a little blue Sears drum set.
Of course.
Which I think was made by Pearl, but I'm not positive. And then a couple of years in, I graduated up to the CB700s.
As did everybody of that era.
Yeah. And I even put them all together and made one giant drum set.
No, of course you did. I mean, that's just what we all did.
Along with my rototoms. Yeah, well, and then I had 2 cymbals, so it was like a ton of drums and just two little cymbals.
That's fantastic. Well, I often joke with people, and I say, I can tell how old somebody is. I know exactly how old they are if they say I had rototoms or I did not have rototoms, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you
that's true. Yeah.
You can peg somebody within 5 or 6 years if they had rototoms when they were a kid. So
that's true. I had them, and I also had octobans. I had a set of 4 octobans.
That's awesome. So
I had them all going at once. It's at one point.
So the young drummer Fred was absolutely tearing up some Peter Criss Kiss kind of stuff, I'm sure, and all that.
We played a little
stuff.
Kiss here and there, but we, I mean, it started out with like Hendrix and Pink Floyd and the Beatles and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got you.
And then it moved into to Rush zone.
Yeah.
And so that's why I had all the toms and all that stuff. I never could play those drum parts totally right, you know.
Oh,
but I
yeah.
tried.
Yeah.
I tried my best.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I don't think any of us could, you know, but it was really about putting on the record or the cassette or whatever the case may be and just do your best, right?
Yeah, pretending to be Neil Peart for an hour. There was a kid in my neighborhood. I remember his name was Eric Gunther, and he was a sick drummer, and he could play all that stuff like perfect. And we would just go and sit in his basement and watch him play our songs.
Yeah, man.
It was pretty insane.
There's something to be said for that, you know, because I grew up much the same way in that, you know, kind of not a big town, but kind of a small town here in central Kentucky. And, you know, when you found a guy that was 3 years your senior that could play everything note for note, you know, my guy was Chris Cheatham was his name. He's in Nashville now doing all kinds of cool stuff. But, you know, I used to just go to his practice space and watch him shred for an hour, and I would steal all that stuff or try to steal it, you know. And that's what makes you a better player at a young age is picking up what other guys are doing.
Yeah. Well, even at an old age.
Yeah.
that never stops.
Yeah. I mean, I say all the time. Yeah. I say all the time, if I go see anybody play, I'm coming home with some new idea. Always, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about it. But, you know, correct me if I'm wrong here, and it's certainly your story and I want you to tell it, but, you know, after, you know, your school age days, you ended up at Berklee in Boston for a while. Is that right? Yeah.
I moved to Boston. I went there for the 5-week program first that they do in the summertime for people. It's mostly for high school age kids, I think, but there's all ages that go to that and from all over the world. And it just it opened my eyes up to a whole new world. And just being in a new city like that, you know, I was really scared.
Well, yeah.
Moving up there and just like, I remember driving into Boston with my parents and just being like, oh my God, what have I done? All my stuff, you know? And, but I did it. And the 5-week program was really great. I had some cool private instructors, and I met Abe Laboriel Jr. actually. He was there at the same time.
Yeah.
I saw him playing in a clinic with a bunch of teachers, and it was Noel Redding was the clinic.
Oh, wow.
Basis for the experience. And so Abe was up there, and we're the same age, and he was just like kicking ass. And I was like, oh my God, who is this guy, you know? So I just went up and introduced myself after their little performance and after the clinic. And then I would run into him here and there around school. And he actually was dating this girl who worked in the performance department. And she told me about some audition for her scholarship because the tuition at Berklee is really expensive.
Yes, very.
And so I was like, all right, she's like, you should audition and blah, blah, blah. So those guys kind of encouraged me to do this little audition, and I went and did it. And I ended up getting a scholarship, not full scholarship, but a little partial scholarship to go back the next semester. And so I did. I moved up there and stayed for what ended up being like 9 years.
Nice. Well, in that era, if you were there at the same time as Abe, you know, the show's good friend Johnny Rabb, he was up there at that time. I mean, that was like, you know, I say it was a golden era. You know, Berklee doesn't have a non-golden era, but you had Abe, you were there, Johnny Rabb was there. I think Stacy Jones, who ended up doing American Hi-Fi and all that stuff. I mean, that guy.
Nathaniel Morton was there, who plays on The Voice.
Yeah, man. We've had Nate on the show.
John Blackwell was there.
Oh my God. I mean, that's a who's who of modern recording that was at Berklee all at the same time. I mean,
I know, it's really cool. And Lil Jon Roberts.
Oh,
he was there.
Yeah.
Total beast.
So, I mean,
and these guys would all just like be playing in the cafeteria and stuff, like doing these ripping jazz gigs. Or I'd run into Abe and he'd be like, "Oh man, come on down, I'm jamming with the teachers doing this little fusion thing or whatever." And I would just go sit in this little practice room or the guitar instructor's office or whatever it was, and get my mind blown and just be like, "Oh my God, I suck. Like, what am I doing here?" Like this rock drummer, not knowing what I was doing. And Abe actually had me sub for him on a couple ensembles. And it was pretty terrifying, I gotta say. I was like, not good. And I totally blew it a couple of things, and I was like, man, this doesn't feel good.
See, Fred, if you had just done better on those sub gigs for Abe, you'd be out with Paul McCartney right now.
That's right.
Yeah. So funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a great experience. I loved going to Berklee. I really learned a lot, and my teachers were super cool. I studied with this guy, Rick Considine, and then with Ian Froman, who's this like jazz guy. He's incredible. And I loved it. I learned so much, and I got turned on to such great music that I probably never would have heard had I stayed in Westchester, PA. And and just, you know, kind of from that, I started playing in bands right away in Boston. These couple other dudes that I met, particularly this one guy, his name is Corin Ashley. He's a bass player and a songwriter, and he had a band. They were just losing their drummer or something, and he asked me to come and jam with them, and I did, and then we started playing. You know, they were already playing gigs around town, and they were like a power pop band, like, you know, like Cheap Trick and Big Star kind of rock and roll band. And then just met a bunch of the rock scene in Boston was really incredible all throughout the 90s. There was so many cool bands, and everybody was touring around in their vans, and we all had these little record deals and things, and just playing constantly, and it was super fun.
Yeah, well,
and
I mean, I think a lot of the guys, and not to interrupt you certainly, but, you know, to kind of jump in, but a lot of the guys that were, you know, making up the core of that Boston rock scene at that time have all gone on to other things. You know, I mean, obviously we mentioned Abe, you know, he's out with, you know, Paul McCartney. He's been doing that gig for a long time. You know, we mentioned Nate Morton, who we've had on the show before, you know, doing the Voice gig. Johnny Rabb is out with Collective Soul. I mean, it's just at that time, that was kind of the center of the universe. And, you know, you're a couple years older than me. And, you know, obviously I wanted to go to Berklee. And as you mentioned, it's very expensive. And, you know, so it just didn't work out for me. But at that time in the 90s, Boston was kind of the center of the universe for bands to form, and then guys go off to do their own thing. And I think that's kind of the path you followed as well, right?
Yeah, totally. And, you know, it just, when you're in it and doing it, you're just kind of broke and playing music with your friends. You're not thinking about it in any of those terms about what it all means in the whole grand scheme, but you're just kind of like, oh my God, how am I going to, pay my rent and play gigs and keep my gear and not have to sell, whatever.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was incredible. And we just got in the van and toured forever. And this band, particularly called the Gigolo Ants, that I ended up joining, they were signed to RCA and already had a couple records out and stuff, and a little bit of success through some like song placement things and movies and TV shows and things. And so we just toured around in a van and opened for everybody, and it was the best experience ever.
Well,
and I got to meet really great players and cool bands out on the road.
Yeah, and making those connections counts because, I know enough about your career to know that, kind of after your time in Boston, you spent some time, moving back and forth from LA and New York until you eventually ended up in Nashville. But, I think everybody knows, but along the way, you spent a few years in the Wallflowers with Jacob Dylan.
Yeah.
Their debut record, which I think Mario did with them, sold like, 40 billion copies or something. I mean, it was
that was Matt Chamberlain.
Was it Chamberlain?
Yeah.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, Mario joined after they recorded that record. They had a record out before that, actually. It's called The Wallflowers, which is really great too, and you should check it out. And they used their band drummer on that, Peter. And so, and they all knew each other. They all like kind of grew up together and went to high school together and stuff.
I gotcha.
And then they made that second record with T-Bone Burnett.
Okay.
And Matt Chamberlain played. A lot of people, they had a lot of guest musicians and stuff on that record. But yeah, they just crushed it. I mean, the record's insane.
Well,
and that's when I met them.
Okay.
I met them on tour for that record. The Gigolo Ants, that band I was talking about, opened up. We had become friends with the Counting Crows guys.
Okay.
Adam Duritz loved our band and was a big fan. Ended up signing our band after we got dropped and helped us put out a little record and stuff. And was super generous and had us open like hundreds of gigs for them. And the one big tour was the Wallflowers Counting Crows tour when they were both having massive hits.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the Wallflowers and going like, oh man, that's going to be another playing. I love that. And loved all those guys and just got to be good friends with all of them. And Mario ended up quitting. I was out on the road with this artist named Ben Queller. He's an indie rock guy.
Yeah, sure.
He's from Dallas originally, but he was living in New York at the time, and I was playing with him and touring around. And Greg from the Wallflowers called me and said, "Hey, Mario's leaving the band. We want to see if you want to come out and do some gigs." And I was like, "Hell yeah!" So we went out and had some fun. Yeah, I ended up staying with them for like 9 years, pretty much. There was some downtime in between, and I had to get other gigs, and so that's kind of when I went in and got a gig with the Dixie Chicks.
Right.
And during my time playing, I was still in the Wallflowers, but we just weren't doing anything. And I had to make some money. I had my second kid come in, and we were taking a sort of a hiatus. And I lucked out and got that gig. And that's when I started meeting a lot of people from Nashville.
Yeah.
Because a bunch of the guys in the band were Nashville guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so let me ask this. The record that you did with the Wallflowers, I don't think many people know about that record because I'm pretty sure the record label kept it a secret. Yeah, from the world.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. The Wallflowers put out a new record this year.
Yeah,
you know, and
I
you guys toured quite a bit on that record, and I think that was the first time I saw you playing live.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but the Dixie Chicks thing, I'm assuming that was a whole different ball of wax, you know, because Nashville, you know, I'm not trying to say anything bad, but the Nashville groups, especially a group as big as the Dixie Chicks, I'm imagining that was probably you have to know somebody to even get in the inner circle, right?
Yeah, totally. And
Okay.
I didn't really know anybody.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mistakenly, I knew somebody just by accident, sort of. It was like, how it all happened was I reached out to Michael Bland, the drummer for who played in the New Power Generation. He and I met on tour when the Gigolo Ants opened some gigs for Paul Westerberg. He was playing with Paul Westerberg.
Okay.
And we got to be pals. And so I emailed him and I was like, hey man, Wallflowers is about to take a break and I need a gig. And so if you hear of anything, just let me know. And he was like, oh yeah, cool. Oh, he had just played on a track for the Chicks a couple months prior, and they asked him to tour, but he couldn't do the tour because he had just joined Soul Asylum.
Oh, okay.
And all these 90s bands, so awesome. But
It is.
He, remember how huge they were, Soul Asylum?
Oh, God,
they were
yeah.
huge.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
That record, what was it, Grave Dancers Union or whatever? I mean, it just...
Yeah.
You know,
Massive.
And Dave is a monster songwriter too. And
I know.
You know, I just don't know why they never caught on past that one record. I know. It's amazing to me that they were here, and you know, you just thought, wow, man, rock has, you know, this great new band out of
rock and roll
out of Minneapolis, and then they were gone. You know, almost as fast as they appeared, which sucks. You know, it does.
I know. But anyway. So Michael Bland hooked me up with the number or contact for the Dixie Chicks tour manager, and like I emailed him, and I was like, "Hey," and I didn't know much about it. I only knew one song from the Dixie Chicks, "Wide Open Spaces."
Yeah,
and I loved it. I was like, "That's a great song." You know, I think it was actually sort of a crossover. It was on VH1 and stuff, so I was like, you know, I knew it. Because I didn't know a ton of 90s country. Now I know who everybody is, but at the time, I was just a rock guy, and you know, it was like you grow up knowing all the massive country people like Johnny Cash and Willie and Dolly and Kenny Rogers and whatever.
Yeah.
But and watching Hee Haw and that kind of stuff, you see all those dudes.
Yeah.
But so I didn't know anything about the country world, nothing. And I just reached out. He passed me along to the band leader, David Grissom, great guitar player from Austin.
Oh, yeah.
And David and I talked and stuff, and I sent him a little sort of, I guess, resume and CD of those few things I had done and stuff. And I didn't hear from him for like 2 weeks. And so I called him again. I was like, hey, just checking in, you know. And he's like, yeah, I think we're going to go in a different direction. You know, nothing personal. We just had some other guys in mind that we're trying out, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I was like, well, I could just stop now, or I could just give one more little chance. And I reached out to my buddy, Gary Loris, who is in a band called the Jayhawks.
Oh, yeah.
Who I'd met through the Wallflowers, and I knew that he had written some songs with the Chicks for their new record. And so I just called him and I was like, hey man, I know this is, probably a long shot, but if you would put in a good word for me with the Chicks or whatever, I'd love to try out for that gig and stuff. And so he did. And they called me like right away and said, come on, we're at the Village in LA recording, mixing the record. And why don't you just come on down and we can talk for a while. And so I did. I went down there and just talked to Marty and Natalie for like 2 hours. We just sat there hanging out and laughing and looking at stuff online and being goofy. And I got the gig.
Yeah.
It was really...
Yeah. That was the, can we live on a bus with this guy for the next 18 months? That's what that tryout was,
Exactly, yeah. I didn't play or anything, we just sat there and talked.
That's cool.
It was really cool. And it all worked out great, I mean, had I gone in there and sucked on the first day, I'm sure it wouldn't have lasted. But,
right. Yeah. Grissom would have been like, yeah, we're moving in a different direction for sure this time.
Yeah, we're definitely moving in a different direction.
Well, I think what was so cool about you in that Dixie Chicks gig was, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you were the only guy in a country band out touring around with, some late 1960s Ludwig standards on that, at that time, which was really cool, and only a total
Well, it was my only kid.
Well, that's a good point.
I had no other choice.
But, only a total drum nerd would check that out. And this is a perfect segue. I've got to get this in. We got to plug our mutual buddy, Clay Fuqua.
Yes, Clay.
At the time that you were doing that gig, playing those Ludwig standards, I had just bought a blue Strata Ludwig standard kit from Clay when he was at Forks in Nashville.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, this is
He's
so cool. He's
working on one for me right now, actually, the blue one.
Oh, really? Okay,
He's
cool.
Clean one up, yeah.
Cool.
He got me the tom-tom recently. I used it on some recording here yesterday. It sounds great, but yeah, that's funny.
That's
blue
cool.
Strata,
yeah. So, but your avocado Strata Ludwig, standard kit, that's the one that we see you with most often. I mean, I've seen it on the, the Skyline Live thing or Skyville Live.
Skyville,
yeah. I've seen you playing it on there. That's a great looking kit, but I know it's been modified pretty heavily over the years just to stand up to the touring, right?
Yeah, that hasn't been changed really that much. Maybe some, I think we got it back to all the proper hardware, and so it's pretty close to the original thing. I think maybe we put some new claws on the kick drum.
Okay.
And but yeah, I bought that drum set in like '94 out of the window at Jack's Drum Shop in Boston.
Cool.
And yeah.
Well,
been my babies.
Well, like I said, you were the only modern country guy out with 40-year-old Ludwigs when you were out with the Chicks. Now was that a click gig and all that stuff or
yeah, they use a click.
Okay.
And there was a couple songs that had like some computer things running with it, but not too many, maybe two. And but they liked using the click live. There was a few songs where I could just start the song and turn it off.
Right.
But it's a huge band. It was a big band. It was like 9 people in the band plus them. So it's kind of good to have us all locked in, sort of.
Yeah.
It could get squirrely pretty quick, but it was, so that was my first time using the click on a gig too, and
no pressure.
In-ears.
Yeah, no pressure at all. We're gonna do a stadium tour with a guy that we know is a good hang. We haven't heard him play. You're going to be using ears for the first time. You're going to be playing a click to a click for the first time.
I know.
So
it's like, okay.
Baptized by fire, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. But it was awesome, man. It all worked out great. And they were super fun. And I made some, lifelong friends. And like Audley Freed was in the band, too.
Oh, no way. He was in the band at that time? Oh, that's killer, man.
Yeah, we both got it at the same time. So, and we play with Sheryl together now. And we have done a lot of the same gigs throughout the years. I got him in with Jacob's first solo tour and Jacob Dylan's first solo tour. And we play with a bunch of people around town here together. And we've done some of those Don Was house band concerts and things together. And so, it's pretty cool.
Of course, everybody's going to recognize Audley Freed's name from, his time in the Black Crowes. I think that's, when his name exploded into the conscious minds. But I'm going to tell you right now, those two Cry of Love records are probably two of my all-time favorite rock records.
That's awesome.
I mean,
it's crazy how many people come up to him all over the world, too. And, will say the same thing.
Well, it's because those records were they were unlike anything else at that time. This would have been, 92, 93, I guess. And it was it was different and it was so badass. I mean, it really was. I mean, I still, to this day, will put on, that first record and just rock my brains out for, 45 minutes. I love it, man. It is a gift.
Yeah, it's just great rock and roll.
It is. Well, you're talking about Sheryl's band. I'm just curious, when you went into that gig, how much of a connection between Dave Grissom and Peter Stroud was there? Was there any bridge there? Because I know those guys are pretty tight with each other.
Actually, I think that is when I first met Peter, was on that tour with the Chicks, because he came out, he was doing 65 amps. His amp company that he's no longer a part of,
right?
Per se, like he'll go to the NAMM show sometimes and do demos and stuff for him, but his buddy kind of took over the whole thing now. But it's a really great amp company, and all these dudes were using it. I'm pretty sure David was using it, but they knew each other just from being guitar players and stuff, and he knew Audley as well.
Okay,
Audley, so. Yeah, I met him out on tour there, and then would just see him at other things, like when I was doing the Wreckers, which was Michelle Branch's country foray. She, her guitar player was playing 65 amps, or no, you know what it was? It was Keith. We were out on the Keith Urban tour, and some of those guys were using 65 amps. So Peter showed up there too.
Okay.
And so we got to be pals through that. And then we formed a band eventually with me and Peter and Audley and Robert Kearns, our bass player, who was also in Cry of Love. And this guy, Keith Gaddis, is a songwriter from Texas here in Nashville. And keyboardist named Ike Stubblefield. And we went down to Atlanta and recorded a little EP under the name Big Hat. And we put that out. So that was like our little country southern rock side project thing. And then, so when Sheryl decided that she wanted, some of her guys in her band were off touring with Noel Gallagher.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, so she had to find a band to play some gigs. And she was like, how about we try and find some people in Nashville? And Peter was like, well, I got this band going right now. And everybody's really great. And they've all done this and this and that. And Sheryl just trusted him and said, okay, well, let's try it out. We went in and jammed and played a little, our first gig was in New Orleans, actually, playing a little corporate gig of like 6 songs. And it all just, 8 years later, whatever, almost 8 years later, we're still rocking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of how that all came together.
Well, and this begs the question, just about, 10 minutes ago in our interview, we were talking about you being in Boston. I hope I don't have to sell my gear this month to pay rent, to, being in a band with arguably one of the biggest, international touring and recording stars of the past 30 years. Do you ever wake up and just kind of have to, pinch yourself just a little and go, man, I'm on stage with Sheryl Crow right now?
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all kind of take note when something really, special, happens for us, or we get to play somewhere that you're just like, I can't believe we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
You kind of go like, all right, this is pretty awesome. This is, my life is pretty cool right now at this moment,
Well, and
even after the other night, we played in New Orleans for New Year's Eve, and then after the gig, we played until like 9:40 or something. But then we had to stay and wait for midnight to come, go back up on stage. They're filming the whole thing, but a few of us ran over to House of Blues to watch Zigaboo, Modelist, and George Porter Jr. like kicking ass.
Yeah, man.
In New Orleans, on New Year's Eve, and going like, wow, this is really super cool that we get to do this. Then we go back to the gig. We do the New Year's Eve, and then get a police escort to the airport through the streets of New Orleans while there's like fireworks going off in everybody's backyards to the left and the right. It's all flat down there, so you can see this whole thing going on, and we're like whipping through traffic with the police bringing us there. And you're just like, man, my life is insane.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Well, over at your website right now at, fredeltringham.com, when you click on your website, there's a picture of you double drumming with Ringo. I mean, I don't know when or where that occurred, but
that's pretty incredible.
I'm sure you were thinking to yourself, holy mother of God, I am sitting here double drumming with Ringo frickin' Starr.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, that was the two like coolest days ever. We got asked. I was in the house band. Oddly, actually put the band together for that too. We were in the house band for this thing up in Seattle at the Museum of Pop Art. It was called their Founders Award. And they were giving an award to Joe Walsh.
Okay.
I guess he donates money to their thing, and they expose kids and to art, around the area or whatever, to music and painting and dance and everything. It's really cool. So anyway, Joe was getting this award, and he happens to be best friends with Ringo Starr. They're married to sisters.
Of course they are.
So, yeah, Ringo's married to Barbara Bach, and then Joe's married to Barbara Bach's sister. So they just fly around everywhere in private jets, then go wherever, together. And so we got asked to do this thing for Joe, and we, back up a bunch of artists playing his songs, and then we get to play with him and do all this stuff. It was like Todd Rundgren and Paul Rogers and Robert Randolph and just all the, super sick. And Dave Grohl happened to be there as well.
Oh,
Dave
yeah.
Grohl and Taylor.
Why wouldn't he be,
I know. Yeah, they put more pressure on me. Great. So they got up and jammed with Joe too. So we just played all these songs. Thereby, Ringo came to rehearsal, and like 5 minutes beforehand, so we thought he was just going to play the song by himself. Like the word had come down, like, yeah, he's just going to play, and like I would just play tambourine or whatever, which I was totally psyched about anyway.
Yeah,
that's to get to meet Ringo, and I'll play tambo with him.
Yeah, that's fine. You know? Yeah, I'm not being greedy here. That's A-okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take whatever. Yeah, it's great. Then 5 minutes before they get there, his manager called and said, Ringo wants to do double drums. He doesn't know the song. He usually just plays double drums in his band. That's what he wants to do. And they were like, oh, shit. So they're thrown together. I was like, yes.
Yeah, and, no doubt.
So they threw together another kit there. Ringo shows up. So sweet, just like bopping around like all Ringo-y and saying funny stuff and being real kind to everybody, and just, he's just Ringo.
Yeah.
And I'm like helping him set up his drums, and we're joking around and stuff. It's incredible. It's totally incredible. Practiced the song, and then hung out for a while, and then the next day we did the show, and he was there hanging out. It was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. And I got to play double drums with Dave that night as well.
Oh, my
Dave
God.
decided that he wanted to play on Funk 49, so he got up with Jim. It was unreal.
That's crazy, man. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, it was totally unreal.
It's nuts. And, well, okay, so I'm going to interject a little bit of me here. I noticed a couple of years back when the Stones did the Tennessee Titans Stadium in Nashville, Clay had actually posted an Instagram photo of the two of you behind Charlie's drum set. And I was just like, man, Clay, you suck. I know we're friends and everything, but you're a terrible human being for posting this,
I know.
So
yeah, that was pretty incredible too.
I mean,
well, because he orchestrated getting a kit to that Charlie wanted to buy.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was Jesus, I'm blanking on Elvis's drummer's name.
DJ Fontana.
Yeah, DJ. He wanted to buy DJ's kit. It was one of those the top hat and cane.
Yeah, I think
kits,
wasn't it the one that Sam Bacco restored?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. So Clay, of course, was in the middle
Charlie's
of that.
tech and and orchestrated that whole thing coming together for. And I think Charlie bought it. I think he ended up buying it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
he didn't
did.
get to meet Charlie, unfortunately. They said because it was Nashville and they had like 1 million guests there.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the tech was just kind of like, if you guys come out to a show where it's a different town, closer, not such a crazy scene, they could do it.
Yeah. Well,
like,
even
okay,
still,
we got to figure that out. But
right.
It was insane. Yeah, I got to touch his drums, and he's got this little rickety old throne still, and he's using like a Speed King and everything. I'm like, what? How is this possible?
Yeah, man.
He's 76 years old, rocking a stadium.
He likes what he likes, and we had John DeChristopher on the show, who's really good friends with Charlie, and he told some great stories. But I think my favorite was Charlie needed a new Speed King pedal, and I think he went to Don Bennett's shop up in the Northwest, right? And he was looking for a new Speed King pedal. And, so Don had lined up like 10 Speed Kings for him to try out. And, he was, messing with each of them. And he was like, well, I kind of like this one, but not that one. And, Don was like, well, I can adjust it. And he said, Charlie looked at him and went, what? He didn't know that you could adjust the tension on a Speed King bass drum pedal.
It's incredible.
So he had been going around the world finding one that was set exactly where he wanted it. You know, he thought it just wore down to that point. And, you know, I said, but he's Charlie Watts. He doesn't have to think about this stuff. He's, you know, he's the drummer of the Stones. Why would he know about that? Right. I mean, so
really funny, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's beyond funny. That's one of the best stories I've ever heard in my life, but
incredible.
It is incredible, you know, but I mean, that's why you're Charlie Watts, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to get this in, you know, and I want to be respectful of your time, but I do want to get this in. I know you've got some gigs with Sheryl coming up, and I want to plug one in particular. You're going to be up here in my neck of the woods in Lexington, Kentucky in April for a big show. It's I think the first ever concert at Kroger Field, which is, you know, the old Commonwealth Stadium where the University of Kentucky Wildcats football team plays. It's Sheryl and Chris Stapleton. And I mean, it's just an insane lineup. So I want to plug that. So what's the pre-production look like on that? Have you, have you seen anything yet? Because that's a big bill.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea, but it's going to be super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We love all those guys. We're actually playing a bunch of shows with Stapleton this year. So I'm excited about that. He's kicking ass. So
yeah, for sure, man.
And I know that I think Jason Isbell's on that as well.
Yeah.
On that concert. But yeah, it's gonna be super fun. Well, we got to have you come out to the gig.
Well, I would love to. And if you're offering, I'm gladly accepting. You know, I would love to get together and have a cup of coffee with you. You know, all these mutual connections that we have, the fact that we've never met in person is honestly kind of amazing. But
I know,
you know, it's crazy, but everybody's so busy. I mean, you know, in this day and age, in the music industry, if you're not in motion, you're dying, kind of thing. I mean, it's just like you're a slave to the road now. You know, it used to be about let's sell the record. Now it's not that at all. It's let's stay on tour kind of thing. And you know, I'm pals with Jason's drummer Chad, and you know,
he's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great player, but we caught up with them when he did his Ryman residency in October. And
killer, yeah.
And hung out with Chad for a few minutes, and you know, he was literally like, they had a couple of weeks off, then it was into the studio with Dave Cobb to get the new record together, and then it was go do one of the cruises, you know, and you know, it's just it never stops for anybody. But so
that's what you got to do, though. I mean, that's just, you know. And luckily, like Sheryl's thing, we mostly tour in the summertime. We do play gigs like every month, but we're not out doing like crazy touring like that, or even like weekends every weekend. Or it's more because she's a single mom and she's got kids, you know, and they're in school and everything, so she's got to be around for them as much as possible. And it's kind of a nice little schedule, you know. It's like we do a ton of shit. We do like tons of stuff always, but it's kind of spread out a little bit, and it doesn't feel like we're just gone all the time, which is nice.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, you stay really busy with the studio thing too. So when you're not on the road, I'm guessing, you know, are you doing a session a week, or are you even busier than that?
Oh yeah, it's probably more than that. Like, at least a couple things a week, if not more. And, you know, that all goes in phases too. You know, there's certain times a year where it's busier and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's really nice. And now I have a place at my house too to record. And, so that's been picking up more. And, you know, people just send tracks and send them WAV files back of stuff, and I really love doing that. So,
now,
it's constant. It is constant.
Are you doing any teaching on the side as well, or are you? I'm guessing you're probably okay with just the Sheryl gig and the Skyville live and doing your studio sessions. But do you teach at all?
I don't know. I'm not really a teacher. I enjoy talking about it and stuff. And if somebody wants to hang and talk about drums and concepts and things, I'm happy to do it. I wouldn't consider myself really a teacher. And like someone actually just contacted me the other day from England, and they were like, "Hey, can we do a Skype lesson or whatever, Facebook or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that stuff." But I don't claim to be any kind of like teacher or anything like that,
Yeah. So in other words, you're not going to say, "Okay, go to page 36 of stick control and we'll work through."
Yeah, exactly. Let's work on some syncopation here.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would, I'm always open to sit and talk about drumming and music.
Yeah. Well, and and that's the super cool thing. I mean, I reached out to you, I don't know, a week ago, and it was like, yeah, sure, man, let's do it. And shame on me for not doing it before now, but I saw you, like I said, on the New Year's Eve thing, and I was like, man, I'll just name drop Clay, and surely Fred will be like, oh yeah, cool, let's, I'll like, find an hour. Yeah, right. Who is that guy? Who? But,
keep him away from me.
Yeah, that's right. So, but anyway, I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this and come on.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, man. Well, one of our traditions here, this is the part where I put you on the spot, so this will really require some brain power, but we ask all of our guests for a good piece of advice. And, I think, we talked about your career path has kind of, taken some twists and turns, some moves from LA to New York, back to LA to Nashville. You've been around. You were in Boston for a while. Over all these years and these amazing gigs that you've done, what would you say to another drummer or another musician that would help them in their day-to-day life?
Well, I guess, different things make different people happy, so you just got to try and find the thing that's going to make you happiest. And just, be true to what you want to accomplish as a musician or whatever, or in life in general.
Yeah.
You just got to, what you do with your life reflects, it comes through your music and everything. So, you just got to be a good person and work hard and do your homework, learn about, your heroes and what they did in their life and what made them great. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And why they sound the way they do, and what made that be an attraction for you, and just try and find your own thing, and stick to it. I think that's about it, really.
Yeah, well, and I think that's great advice. And I say this all the time. On this show, no matter who I have, for example, this time last year I had Marco Miniman on the show, and nobody can do that, right? Except
nobody can do that shit, I know.
Except for Marco. And, don't, I've always said, don't compare yourself to everybody else, because you're not everybody else.
That's right.
I can't do what Benny Greb does, no. So I think you have to find your lane as a musician. And I think that's what you're saying there, really, is find what makes you happy, get in your lane and do that full tilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll just make you a happier person.
Absolutely. Well, and you know, your career is, you know, I think is a perfect example of somebody who has worked hard, you've networked, and you use some of those connections to kind of go from one gig to the next. And you're having a hell of a lot of fun right now with your life as a drummer. Yeah. You know, I mean, it could be a lot worse. We could be, you know, working as a short order cook someplace, right? I mean,
that's right. I know.
It's a whole lot more fun to play drums.
Cleaning toilets in a rest stop or something. You know?
Yeah. I mean,
somebody's got to do it, but you don't want to be that person.
That's exactly right.
That's a hard lot in life. Yeah.
It is for sure. Well,
yeah, no, I'm very fortunate, man. And I work hard, you know, I really do. I practice and try and keep my head straight and just try to be a good person and spread some peace and love to people and you know, just try to live right.
For sure, man. Well, that's some of that Ringo Starr rubbing off on you right there, you know?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's right.
He is right.
Come on.
He is right.
Peace of love.
That's right. Music is the industry, you know, and I want to get your take on this, but the industry really is dog eat dog. I mean, we know that. It's super competitive for gigs and whatnot, but it doesn't cost you anything to help the next guy out. And that's the way I've always tried to live is, you know, if somebody needs to borrow, you know, a bass drum pedal or, you know, if I can put in a good word for another gig that I'm not, you know, shooting for, it costs me nothing to do that. And we're all in it together kind of thing.
That's right. I do that all the time.
Yeah. For sure. Well, and let me just, I don't want to leave any gray area here, Fred, you know, and I don't, and I don't want to, you know, nudge in on my buddy Clay, but if you ever get the flu and you're about to double drum with Ringo, call me, man. I'll be on the next plane to wherever it is you are. Okay.
You got it. All right. Yeah. That's a deal.
You know, I don't want to wish any ill will on anybody, but you know, if you're double drumming with Ringo and don't feel well, just say the word.
What the crabby thing is, Clay didn't even get to see that.
Are you kidding me?
He wasn't there. No, because it wasn't we didn't have any text for that thing. Really. It was just kind of like weird, you know, we were doing our own.
And he still talks to you after that?
Another day, there was actually another show where we got to perform for Ringo was getting an award. This was like last year. He was getting a humanitarian award from UNICEF.
Oh yeah,
it was like the George Harrison Humanitarian Award.
Yeah,
and so he went up and gave us. Got to be around him again. He gave a speech, and then like, you know, he saw us from his table and he was waving and giving us a peace sign, and then like waited side stage when we were down. I came down and I was like, "Hey, give me a hug!" Totally remembered me, and I couldn't believe it. I was like crying. And Clay missed that one too. Clay had some kind of, I think it was some kind of family thing that he had to miss it, unfortunately. But yeah.
Well, you know,
Clay. Someday.
I gave Clay a bunch of grief when he was teching for Jay Bellerose. They were doing the Grammys, and he got to hang out with Paul McCartney, you know, Sir Paul.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, you know, during rehearsals or whatever, he just kind of walked up to him, you know, and I was like, well, what'd you say? And if I'm remembering it correctly, I think Clay just said, "Great job on Let It Be," or something like that. I mean, it was something so totally funny that Clay would totally say, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, Clay is good people, man. I consider him a brother, and you've got yourself one hell of a drum tech. I know that. So
I know he's my favorite. He's the best ever.
Yeah.
Such a sweetheart.
I'm going to have to get him on the show to tell some Fred stories.
You should actually.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
That'd be a good little conversation. He's had a pretty exciting time too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have to call him. We'll talk about every mother's nightmare and, you know, the the Memphis hair metal days. He's done a little bit of everything. So
I know he sends me pictures every once in a while, and it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, man.
Good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Fred, man, thank you again so much. I hope 2020
my
is
pleasure.
Just a great year for you, and we'll have to do this again sometime, man, for sure.
I would love that.
Cool.
Yes, please. That would be awesome. Thanks, Jamie.
Hey, no problem, man. I appreciate you taking the time. We'll talk to you real soon.
Okie dokie.
All right. See you, Fred.
Thanks, buddy. See you, man.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap up episode 85 of the Drum Shuffle. As always, many thanks to Fred for taking time out of his busy schedule. He had a little bit of downtime at home in Nashville with his family. So I appreciate him taking an hour out of his busy schedule to do this. Just a great hang, I thought. Thanks to each and every one of you for listening to the show. We simply cannot do it without your support, and you do that by listening. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up, a star rating, a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you use to listen into the Drum Shuffle. It helps us more than you know, and you're certainly not going to want to miss some of the guests that we have coming up. Here over the next few weeks, we're going to be joined again by the great Dina Torriello. She is now on the Little Shop of Horrors Broadway show. We're working to get our schedules together to get Dina back on the show. Rod Elkins from Tyler Childers' band is going to be joining us here before too long. So we're working on some really cool stuff to have great guests on the show. So if you like it, hit the thumbs up, give us a rating, a review, hit the subscribe button. That's all we can do to ask from you guys. Now, if you like the show, you want to send us a message, we do answer every single email we get, thedrumshufflepodcast@gmail.com. Our web address is thedrumshuffle.com, and you can find more information about me over at jamieeads.com. While you're there, click on those social media links, like us and follow us there. We appreciate that help as well. I hope everybody has a fantastic week out there. So until next time, may your heads stay strong and your sticks never break. Cheers, everybody.